In the rugged alleys of ancient Sparta, where ambition sharpened in silence and shadows hid steel, life as a Helot was a slow grind against fate. You weren't punished into this role. You were born into it, descended from conquered Messenians, now chained to the land as the state's living tools. You tilled fields you would never own. You fed warriors who would never thank you. And when night fell, you didn't rest. You listened for the soft tread of the cryptire. Spartan boys sent to murder you in silence, just to prove they could. Every day was labour. Every night, a test of whether you'd see the next. This wasn't living. It was survival in the margins of history. Unseen, unrecorded, and utterly expendable. Take a moment and step into a world carved by conquest and shaped by subjugation. This is the haunting tale of the Helots, whose lives began not with choices but with chains. In a land where golden fields met rugged mountains, the people of Messenia faced an irresistible force in 735 BC. With the unrelenting march of the Spartan army, their defeat heralded a cycle of bondage, a tale where worth was measured not by flesh and blood, but by servitude to an unyielding state. Enslaved as a class, Helots became the backbone of Spartan society. Unlike typical slaves, they weren't mere possessions of individuals. They belonged to the Spartan collective. Bound to the earth they toiled, they nourished the warriors whose glory was built on their sweat, whose spears glistened from their labours. The Helots' servitude was unique, a shadow beneath a militarised state where freedom lay beyond imagining. Their lives were given over to a system as merciless as the sharpened blades that secured Sparta's power. To be born a Helot was to embrace a legacy of bondage entwined with the soil. From a first breath, identity was stamped by an invisible brand of inferiority, where inheritance meant toil, not triumph. Cradle songs were nothing but whispers, winds blowing over fields steeped in ancestral despair. Despite this struggle, their labour fueled the prosperity of their oppressors. Bread from Spartan tables rose from the grain they planted, their sweat the secret ingredient. Instead of acknowledgement, their lineage became a footnote, echoed in the silent undertones of conquest. Life as a Helot was marked by a constant weight, a physical yoke as heavy as the legacy they carried. The fields were an endless stage, every furrow a testament to relentless sacrifice. Despite exhausting labours, quotas loomed, as consistent as the Spartans' harsh decrees, demanding ceaseless payment in backbreaking endeavour. Each dawn reminded them that even as they nurtured the land, ownership was forever out of reach, feeding a hierarchy as dictated as the sun's rise. Yet in the encompassing shadow of oppression, Helots forged identities not through self-definition, but by necessity. Erased individuality melted into collective anonymity, names overshadowed by the omnipresent label of Helot. Even stripped of autonomy, resilience became the true emblem of their defiance. Against a backdrop demanding silence, family and community ties whispered their own rebellious harmony. Each day's survival a declaration of allegiance to a people that endured. Being Helo meant mastering the art of surviving submission, an intricate ballet of covert defiance. Beneath a facade of compliance lay a core of resilience, adherence hiding an unyielding spirit. Living under constant scrutiny, they evolved into experts in subtleties, an inner realm of rebellion sustaining them in a world where open opposition meant certain ruin. Through patience and furtive strategies, they wove an intricate dance of adaptation, surviving not by rebellion but by enduring with grace. Despite enforced alienation, Helots cultivated belonging via bonds unseen by their masters. Communities emerged from adversity, weaving kin networks into supportive bastions, vital for survival. In fields and before hearths, they found solidarity that Spartan chains couldn't sever. Communication, often unspoken, allowed them to share strength and hope through laborious days, their unity a defiance against imposed separation. Resistance among Helots was subtle, surfacing not as uprisings, but through resilience and daily acts of courage. This silent defiance avoided overt notice, but whispered through acts of sabotage and cultural preservation. Their songs, their traditions persisted beneath Spartan notice, a legacy shielded from the erosion of time. Unseen yet critical, this resistance was a testament to perseverance amid persecution, leaving intangible marks of defiance. Despite the chains tightly bound around them, Helots carried dreams both impossible and essential. Dreams spoke of tantalizing freedom, sparking rebellious imaginings despite harsh realities. Though circumscribed by a state viewing them as mere tools, their dreams kindled dissatisfaction, nurturing seeds of quiet rebellion. Even with no change offered by these aspirations, they bonded the Helots, uniting them in shared hopes for a future where songs were not lamentations, where dreams could blossom unhindered. While history etched Helots into the background of Spartan tales, their presence was paramount. Silently, they carried the weight of grandeur, their labours the unseen narrative shaping Spartan destiny. As generals and kings garnered marble tributes, the Helots' unsung stories ran deeply beneath, power echoing in their untold strength. Rewriting their narrative brings clarity to the complex dance of power, resistance, and endurance. At the edge of history's grand stage, one can hear the chorus of Helot voices, their once muted cries gaining strength as centuries pass. This chorus, rising beyond historical snares, weaves tales of oppression enriched with resilience. These voices offer a symphony against simple conquest narratives, a tapestry where humanity's capability to flourish amid harshness shines. The Helot's existence illuminates history, revealing its truest expression only when acknowledging its shadows and light. As dawn's first light timidly touches the Spartan lands, you rise from a restless sleep, burdened by unshakable fatigue. For a Helot, the day begins before the sun fully awakens, driven not by choice but by stark necessity. Each day stretches ahead like an arena of endurance. A battle not just against time and nature, but against the very machine of Sparta, where you toil as an indispensable yet invisible cog. The fields call for your labour, their furrows etched with the expectation of sweat and toil. Day upon day, year upon year, you bend low over the soil, coaxing life from the earth that will never be yours. The grain you gather graces your master's tables, while you feed only on survival. Yet this laborious routine is more than a physical struggle. It is a relentless test of dignity and perseverance. Among fellow Helots, you share a silent acknowledgement that this grind is a life sentence, a legacy from ancestors who once knew freedom before conquest. These lands, once their pride, are now battlegrounds where spirit and body alike are worn thin. Every handful of earth whispers of levies unpaid and promises unkept, chronicling a history of dispossession. In this arena of oppression, you persist, navigating the crevices of a world designed for your subjugation, fueled by resilience and victories found in the mere act of enduring. The Spartan sun rises relentlessly, casting a fervent glare over the fields. There is no reprieve from its oppressive heat. Your skin, cracked and hardened by labour, bears testament to this constant struggle. The earth beneath is equally unyielding, offering resistance to the blade of your plough. Its rocky, unforgiving terrain seems to mock your efforts, as if conspiring against you. Yet you remain bound to this soil, pressing on to meet quotas that care little for the whims of weather or earth. The fields bear no compassion, yet your existence is bound tightly to their capricious yields. Season after season you nurture fragile hopes, only to have them dashed by scarcity imposed by nature and Spartan demands. With the beginning of each year, quotas loom over your efforts, immutable demands made by Spartan overlords. Their expectations cast a long shadow over your toil, indifferent to the vicissitudes of climate and soil. Rebellion is unthinkable, and compliance is enforced with harsh vehemence. You labour under the threat of brutal retribution, your body the ledger upon which the cost of failure is inscribed. Stories abound of meagre harvests and whips cracking like thunder across backs. Each sheaf gathered saps strength and stifles aspirations. Yet it is not just earth that you till. Hopes, too, are sown in barren ground with a defiant vigour that dares to challenge despair. While Spartan masters feast on the fruits of your labour, their tables groaning with abundance, you subsist on rationed meagreness. Each morsel they consume reflects your silent contributions. Riches born from sweat and sacrifice that seeps into the very stones behind which they celebrate. You are an unseen guest at these banquets, living through their opulence yet never partaking. Their satisfaction illuminates your deprivation, two sides of the same coin of privilege. You hear whispers of masters softened and warriors sharing, but these rumours offer little solace to your reality. The reality of absence and yearning that lingers like unshed shadows. Amidst the rows you tend, overseers walk like figures of menace, their eyes sharp and penetrating. They are the ever-watchful wardens of Spartan interest, ensuring your labour never falters. Their presence, marked by whips at their sides, grinds away autonomy, shackling your movements with dread. Each task must meet their silent yet precise standards, every effort made under their scrutiny. These overseers oversee, not to protect, but to dominate, reminders of consequences lurking should you misstep. With resilience forged by necessity, you move under their gaze, your fear intertwined with survival, a vital safeguard against the weight of failure. Instruments of labour are extensions of your body, their handles worn by generations before. These tools, sickles, hoes, ploughs, are timeless yet impersonal, yokes of oppression in wooden and iron form. Though constructed for cultivating life, they become instruments of bondage. These tools endure cycles of wearing much like you, subject to the tyranny of expectation. They break as do you, but within each scrape and sharpen lies quiet rebellion, echoes of autonomy. The task remains a chorus of subjugation, yet spirits remain restless, refusing to yield completely to the chains of ancient design. In the soil's shadows, you find camaraderie with fellow Helots, bound together not by choice but fate. This brotherhood of hardship and resilience forms among the furrows, a kinship transcending individuality. The fields to which you are all condemned become the cradle of unity. Yet this fellowship is fragile, for the Spartans recognise the strength in unity, and sow discord to dismantle it. Mistrust flourishes amidst sowed tensions and jealousy. But beneath these rifts drums a quiet rhythm of solidarity, adverse conditions fostering a tenacity as ancient and enduring as the earth itself. In the stillness of night, the cryptire unfolds, a macabre tradition of Spartan society, where young warriors, barely beyond boyhood, become shadows in a haunting ritual. Under the silvery gaze of the moon, these youths move in silence, weapons catching the starlight as they partake in a rite as old as Sparta's ironclad formations. This is no mere exercise in brutality for the Helots, the perpetual underclass. It's a terrifying cycle of sanctioned violence, each year reminding them of their precarious existence. The cryptire is a lesson in fear, meticulously designed to subjugate, a brutally ingrained component of Spartan education and societal structure. For the Helots, these nights transform familiar fields into hostile territory, where the creeping darkness holds the lurking threat of Spartan eyes and gleaming blades. By day, the Helots toil under the sun, but even as they labour, they feel the oppressive weight of what each dusk may bring. They adapt to a life where every rustle might betray their presence, every shadow a herald of demise, learning to meet sleep warily or forsake it altogether. Yet, for the young Spartans, this tradition ignites a perverse thrill, an exercise in power and stealth that sharpens instincts even as it dulls compassion. With each silent kill, their hearts harden, reinforcing the harsh doctrine that survival and supremacy come through fear and domination. As the Helots endure this relentless cycle, night becomes a crucible of despair, their communities woven with whispered tales of those who vanished, victims of this chilling demonstration of state power. The cryptire isn't simply about culling, it's an insidious campaign of psychological warfare, executed with precision in mines and fields rather than open battlefields. This legacy of fear shapes the lives of Helots, constructing their reality around the knowledge that each passing night is another struggle beneath an oppressive regime. Survival becomes an intimate dance with terror, a perpetual nightmare where dawn offers only a fleeting reprieve. Within this chilling legacy, subtle resistance carves only thin slivers of defiance. Helots clutch fiercely to fragments of dignity, crafting secret alliances through simple acts of human kindness, sharing food, hosting clandestine gatherings, gestures imbued with hope and solidarity. These acts, though small, are potent assertions of humanity against an existence designed to strip it away. Meanwhile, young Spartans, shaped by this grim tradition, learn to see authority as their birthright, growing into roles that pledge allegiance to violence as a virtue. The state moulds them into resolute enforcers of its tyrannical ideology, transforming mere survival into a testament of calculated persistence. Yet, both predator and prey are ensnared within this cyclical horror, each forced into roles by the weight of tradition and terror. For Helots, life is bound within Spartan expectations, chains that ensure subservience with every decision overshadowed by potential death. The cryptire solidifies this dynamic, forcing them into an existence defined by muted survival and covert adaptation, where conformity becomes their most salient rebellion. For Spartans, conformity means embracing the mantle of tyranny, accepting their role within a brutal regime. Through compliance, they perpetuate a dominion of fear that blinds them to paths of enlightenment or peace, steeling them as custodians of a deeply flawed legacy. Even amid this sombre landscape, the whispers of rebellion surface, flourishing within heartbeats of unexpected defiance. Helot resistance is less an uprising than a testament to resilience, a quiet reclaiming of agency through acts that resist Spartan erasure. By nurturing community, they craft subversions not of revolt but of sheer tenacity. Each shared meal or hidden shelter a courageous declaration of life against the shadow of annihilation. Through acts of resistance, Helots embody a quiet strength, asserting their humanity against a regime of demeaning oppression. The relentless cycle of the Cryptia renews with every generation, forging a dark continuity that transcends mere fear. For Helots, this perpetual terror defines each breath and heartbeat, an unending countdown until fate's hammer inevitably falls. Their lives are threaded with dread, actions dictated by the overarching presence of death's shadow. This cycle thrives, preserving a sombre understanding that existence hinges not on living fully, but on navigating the razor's edge of survival. For young Spartans, absorbed by this legacy of cruelty masquerading as valour, the cycle ensures that they become the oppressors, bearing down upon Helots as predecessors did before them. The lessons of the Cryptai are carved deep, ensuring their commitment to a legacy of hollow greatness and blood-stained honour. Thus, the Cryptia remains a potent influence, determining the fates of two entwined communities, one bound by terror, the other by power, anchored in fear. In this bleak theatre of control and submission, nightfall embodies the paradox of Spartan existence, a fleeting refuge amid ceaseless dread. For the Helots, shadows offer respite from the day's toil, yet always harbour the threat of young Spartans honing their craft, heirs to ancestors who wielded such terror centuries before. This nocturnal world becomes a microcosm of Spartan culture, a harsh dance between power and subjugation, with each step dictated by the inexorable tide of historical momentum. In the stratified world of ancient Sparta, a Helot's identity is marked physically and symbolically by the clothing they wear. Clothed in rough animal skins, their garb speaks volumes about their imposed inferiority. These skins, once alive with the scent of freedom, now cling to Helots as a second skin of submission, threading through them an undeniable narrative of domination. Unlike the fine garments of their Spartan masters, which glide with a whisper of power, these skins hold a lingering odour, a constant reminder of the hierarchy that brands each Helot from birth. They become a declaration of difference, a visible line drawn in the dust between the Helot and the citizen. Even a simple act like dressing becomes a ritual of oppression, where practicality yields to a deeper symbol of societal engineering. As day breaks, the coarse fabric scratches away at both skin and soul, standing as a barrier to their humanity. Beneath these hides, Helots yearn for anonymity, a chance to blend into a world that feels, momentarily, like a forgotten dream. Their environment is crafted to fracture dignity, ensuring that each new dawn only serves to further the distance between them and the fleeting comfort of equality. The shame extends beyond clothing, firmly entangling itself in their hair, the uncut mane that further marks their subjugation. In an ironic twist where Greek culture often equated long hair with freedom and nobility, in Sparta it drapes as a symbol of inevitability and helplessness for Helots. This forced length is a visible testament, waving like a flag of defeat, silently echoing tales of constraint. It turns something potentially proud into a crushing reminder of roles dictated not by personal choice, but by a society relentless in its reinforcement of dominance. Festivals amplify this public shame, forcing Helots into roles of mockery. Under the guise of celebration, they're given alcohol to fuel a deceptive dance of chaos, pawns for Spartan amusement, living marionettes for those who would wield power without remorse. The youth of Sparta grow up steeped in this derision, equating Helot blunders with genuine inferiority, laughing at the spectacle but absorbing its latent lesson of superiority. Each mock gesture, each exaggerated stumble, stitches the social divide deeper into the fabric of Spartan consciousness, converting a Helot's moment of vulnerability into a tool of subjugation. Within these drunken revelries lies a harsh choreography, a stark contrast to the precision of Spartan warriors. This enforced behaviour serves not merely as entertainment, but as a pointed reminder of the hierarchical gap. It highlights the Helots' clumsiness against the Spartans' purported grace, sidestepping freedom and dignity while mocking the very idea of choice. The dances demand submission, a resignation performed year after year, orchestrating a scene of power where the Helots are both artists and captives, spinning tales of oppression choreographed by those who feast on their suffering. Defiance invites severe Spartan repercussions, adding a ruthless layer to this tapestry of control. To resist wearing skins or deny the dance means to confront the Spartan law, met with punishment that echoes through bones and generations. Compliance is carved into necessity. Survival hinges on silent obedience, on not just enduring but absorbing this orchestrated humiliation. Spartan discipline is relentless, a force that ensures conformity while erasing the very idea of resistance from Helot minds. Scars bear silent witness to the price of rebellion, embedding fear as a crucial constant in the narrative of a Helot's life. Yet death remains the ultimate penalty, a grim end for those who dare to envision a different future. Rare and courageous are those who choose the perilous path of revolt, knowing well that their demise erases all traces of their daring stand. Their deaths are not martyrs' elegies but quiet obliterations, stark warnings carved into the memories of those left behind. With each fallen Helot, dream and reality fracture, emphasizing the brutality of the system that chooses obliteration over liberation, ensuring potential sparks of insurrection are extinguished before they ignite. Spartan laughter in the face of Helot humiliation is a tool of psychological warfare as much as an expression of perceived dominance. It perpetuates a societal indoctrination that tempers the humanity of both victim and oppressor. Within every dismissive chuckle, an acknowledgement of Helotic contribution, or lack thereof, is denied. Their laughter isn't merely derision, it's a binding chant to validate systemic inequality, trapping both Spartans and Helots in a dynamic where the abuse of power reinforces control through embedded cultural literacy. This laughter echoes into the future, weaving itself through the lessons taught to each Spartan child, ensuring that perceived supremacy over the Helots becomes both a learned and lived experience. These humiliations become formative teachings, embedding a skewed vision of identity and worth, which continues to propagate through generations. As the chains of oppression bind the Helots visibly, they root deeper, creating an unseen internal struggle for dignity, weighed down by the unyielding yoke of Spartan indoctrination. At the core of it all lies a staggering irony. The Spartan Empire, famed for its strength and discipline, rests precariously on the labour of the very people it despises. In mocking a Helot, Spartans avert their gaze from a fragile truth. Their towering legacy is a hollow monument, resting on the resilient, invisible shoulders of those claimed to be lesser. This dependency underscores the cowardly reality of Spartan greatness, which manoeuvres dangerously close to a delicate collapse, one that is fortuitously masked by the very submission it enforces. In the shadow of Spartan rule, the Helot family clings together as a fragile bastion against relentless oppression. You live with the continuous fear that the ones you love are just as vulnerable to Sparta's whims as you are. Your family is a sanctuary, a brief respite from daily cruelty, where even amidst societal constraints and dread, you strive to create warmth and protection for your loved ones. Holding your daughter in your arms or watching your son chase a chicken, you try to remember what it means to love and live, even in chains. Yet this tenderness is on borrowed time. Spartan officials can tear you apart at a whim. The Lorvantus miners, those givers of cleansing, see your family not as a sanctuary, but as a disposable commodity. Every day together is a small victory over the faceless march of Spartan authority, but each laugh is tinged with the bitterness of impermanence. The threat of being torn from your family haunts you. You've seen Helot children plucked from homes to serve Spartan masters, never to return. The threat of forced separation is a constant spectre, embodying the Spartan belief in divide and conquer. Families live in fear of the knock on the door, the demand for children, the tearing apart of bonds. Sons may be taken to serve, or worse, to fight Spartan wars under supervisors who show no mercy. Sometimes it's not a brutal snatching, but a guise of opportunity that takes them away. Promises of education replaced by harsh servitude. Mothers weep silently in the night. Fathers grip ploughs tighter, and the family hearth becomes a place of palpable loss. The silence left behind is an emptiness, an unfulfilled hope that never bears reunion. Silence and secrecy become your currency for survival. Words, though tempting, carry threatening consequences. Conversations are whispered and coded, a necessity to keep your kin safe. Silence is not mere absence, but a shield, manifested in shared glances of worry and the pressing need to keep hidden what could invite Spartan ire. But secrets weigh heavy, binding tongue and thought. Among Helots, truth carries sharper edges than silence. Keeping secrets, you weave alliances through shared knowledge, forming a community robust against the oppressor's scrutiny. Yet this silence siphons laughter from your home, bowing joy under the weight of ever-present fear. Raising children under Sparta's gaze is a burden borne with solemnity. Parenting becomes an eternal act of vigilance, where love is laced with fear, and every lesson is born of survival. One wrong move could mean unimaginable loss. As you teach your children to walk and laugh, you also teach them to be silent and invisible. You dream of a different future for them, perhaps not in your lifetime, but within theirs. Even in melancholy, there's space for hope. Secretly, you nurture dreams of rebellion, quiet embers awaiting the right moment to flicker to life. Your struggle is to weave guardianship with foresight, ushering your offspring toward a future a little safer, a little better. Under the ever-watchful Spartan gaze, you move as one who is unseen, though never truly invisible. Every step watched, every word potentially reported. You and your family are unwilling actors in a spectacle sustained by endless observation. Defying the gaze invites tragedy. You tread carefully, ensuring your family's loyalty appears unquestionable. Yet, this persistent oversight distorts community bonds, as neighbours weigh each other, plagued by vulnerability and deceit. Your table becomes a place where anxieties echo louder than laughter, where intimacy is tempered by unrelenting watchfulness. In a world of vigilance, Helot families develop rituals of concealment to deflect attention, a dance of discretion handed down through generations. These rituals become survival mechanisms, protecting cherished privacy. Quiet nights turn into sanctuaries, moments stolen amidst day's burdens. Concealment is grueling, demanding strategies to safeguard family essence. From whispers under low eaves to encoded glances, lives are defined by resilience grounded in secrecy. Yet even these acts of subterfuge are valorous, persistent defiance ensuring survival. Coercion and betrayal loom constantly. Trust is a commodity shaped by desperation, for any moment could lead to betrayal. Spartan coercion fosters betrayal within Helot society, fracturing community ties. Parents teach children both to fear the Spartan and to be cautious among peers, moulding trust alongside mistrust. Yet meaningful connections require courage beyond brute force. In secretive gestures and coded exchanges, brotherhood finds resilience in hardship. Amidst constant coercion, Helot bonds endure, forming defiant networks within the community's hidden corridors. Even as Spartan authority crushes potential, Helots dream of a future unshackled by restraint. Families harbour visions of liberation, where joyous afternoons extend into destiny. Yet, reality often shatters these dreams. Helots who dare to aspire see visions wither under Spartan dominance. Yet within fractured dreams, resolution grows. Beneath disappointment lies resilience and hope that endures through generations. Within this darkness, Helots cultivate an unyielding spirit, their legacy of defiance quietly shaping the tapestry of time. In the shadow of Spartan grandeur, the Helots labour relentlessly, the unsung architects of a society that prizes military prowess above all else. Their toil is the lifeblood of Sparta, silently fueling the city-state's legendary war machine. From dawn until dusk under the fiery gaze of the sun, these bondsmen construct the sturdy roads and towering edifices that cradle Spartan civilization. Their hands shape stones and bend wood, while their hearts endure the relentless churn of days into nights, in an endless cycle of labour. Yet this critical role garners no respect, only further binds them to a fate marked by anonymity and exhaustion. Each Helot becomes a mere cog within the vast machinery of Spartan society, unnoticed and unappreciated. Their physical strain, the aching backs and calloused hands, becomes their only mark of existence. It is a crushing reality, where identity erodes under the weight of service, and they fade into shadows of themselves, defined solely by work that grinds them down day by day. Oversight is constant. Every task unfolds under the watchful eyes of Spartan overseers, whose unwavering vigilance ensures not a moment is wasted. A Helot's life stretches from the first light until darkness cloaks the land, filled with back-breaking labour that saps all energy and leaves no reprieve. Each breath is deliberate, each movement monitored, as overseers remind Helots of their subjugation, wielding authority and retribution with a powerful hand. A simple misstep, a moment's delay, might incite harsh punishment, steering Helots into a life of silent compliance. Twisting through this narrative is the grueling demand of agricultural labour, where Helots wrest bounties from unyielding earth under the hot sun. Their work ensures Spartan tables are lavishly stocked, even as they themselves languish in scarcity. The fields are battlegrounds of endurance and despair, fields that sustain the Spartan appetite while leaving the Helots malnourished. It is a bitter irony, a story of sustenance denied to those who labour the hardest, woven into the broader tapestry of Spartan life. Navigating this treacherous balance between the extremes of production challenges Helots as much as the labour itself. Producing too little invites punishment, yet overproduction might spark suspicion and draw the ominous label of cunning, a dangerous trait. Thus Helots tread a precarious path, their lives marked by whispered codes and silent negotiations with fate, where every grain harvested reflects the razor's edge they walk between defiance and submission. From the vibrance of youth to the weariness of age, Helots endure an arduous journey. Their strongest years drained in servitude towards Spartan demands. They witness childhood blur into labour, each youthful aspiration stamped out by necessity. And as their vigour wanes, they glimpse their own fates foretold in the stooped figures of the elderly, burdened under the weight of years that seal their destinies in perpetual toil. Some Helots face especially terrifying tasks, maintaining weapons and tending war horses that will never be theirs to wield. They assemble the apparatus of Spartan might, sharpening blades and lifting spears that safeguard their own chains of bondage. This irony sharpens their fear, yet they continue aiding the masters of their subjugation with reluctant hands. Rest for a Helot is a distant promise, one obscured by unending demands. While Spartan elites engage in exercises of discipline and ceremony, Helots know no such luxury. Their toil persists through day and night, casting shadows even upon the hours meant for respite. Nightfall teases with a fragile solitude, yet amplifies the fears that linger, leaving them to anticipate the harsh demands of tomorrow. Injury is both a spectre and a certainty here, inevitable in a world that demands so much and offers so little. Cuts and bruises accumulate unremarked. The more severe breakages turn once able bodies into burdens, vulnerable in a society that accords worth only to the able-bodied. The injured Helot, deprived of resources for recovery, faces their fate alone, unlamented and unforgiven. Autonomy is shackled by Spartan whim, the assignments of labour shifting with the ruling class's desires. Helots bend to these erratic demands, their existence marked by a restless adaptation to circumstances beyond their control. It is a precarious existence, dictated by the will of others, where personal choice dissolves beneath imposed expectations. Ultimately, life for a Helot converges upon an ultimatum of perpetual endurance, a struggle against despair that defines each day of servitude. Every stooped back and weary step whispers of dreams suffocated by toil, yet a remarkable resilience weaves through their story. For all its drudgery and pain, theirs is a tale of defiant endurance, a narrative indelibly etched into the soul of Sparta, unseen and unheard, but undeniably alive through each generation's quiet resistance against the oppression that ensnares them. Life as a Helot in ancient Sparta was akin to living within an invisible prison, where the air itself seemed to tighten with webs of fear. The villages, at a casual glance, appeared serene, cloaked in fields of grain gently swaying under the relentless Spartan sun. Yet, beneath this placid veneer simmered an atmosphere charged with tension and suspicion. Every Helot knew they were under constant surveillance, unseen eyes observing their every move, ears eager to catch even the faintest whisper of dissent. This suffocating supervision was how Spartans managed the vastly outnumbering Helot populace, creating a culture of palpable paranoia. Helots learned to distrust not only between themselves and their Spartan masters, but also amongst their own. Each glance shared or word spoken in hushed tones could carry consequences, spelling doom for the unwary. To survive, Helots developed a clandestine language of subtle gestures and coded exchanges. This silent communication became second nature, a nod signalling that the path was safe, a cough warning of approaching danger, or a pattern of footsteps conveying an urgent message. Every Helot transformed into a silent storyteller, weaving narratives in the air with invisible threads, overt to those initiated in their secrets, while hidden from prying Spartan eyes. The need for such communication held the community together, under shared secrecy and resilience, quietly nurturing hopes and dreams for a future where things might change. Through these whispers, Helots planted seeds of defiance, dreaming of liberty amidst an overwhelming landscape of oppression. In this world, trust was both an indispensable resource and a perilous gamble. Relationships among Helots were fraught with complexity, entangled with survival instincts and fear. Friendships, though necessary, were laced with potential threats as the spectre of betrayal loomed ever large. Yet, despite this pervasive fear, deep bonds did burgeon, anchored in shared hardship and necessity. Trust became an act of immense bravery, a wager against the dire odds of their existence. However, when betrayal did occur, it was often driven not by malice but by desperation. Victims on both sides of this tragic divide, navigating a perilous existence where choices were never free. In the oppressive world of Helot subjugation, the very walls seemed to have ears, an unsettling reality that everyone understood. Spartans employed sophisticated systems with trusted slaves and paid informants to eavesdrop on conversations, their penetrating reach extending into every crack and corner. No place felt truly secure, leaving Helots compelled to retreat to the solitude of the countryside or the cover of night to speak freely. Despite efforts to communicate with subterfuge, the constant presence of spies meant that each word carried potential repercussions, making every conversation a risky endeavour. Under such scrutiny, speech morphed into defiance, with words becoming vessels of resilience and survival. The Spartans wielded paranoia like a weapon, expertly manipulated to keep Helots in check. A climate of persistent uncertainty settled deep within their psyche, as they learned to veil thoughts and guard emotions meticulously. This omnipresent atmosphere of paranoia drove Helots to incessantly question loyalties and intentions. Every interaction was a careful dance around suspicion, ensuring absolute compliance through self-policing rather than overt regulation. Despite these oppressive measures, whispers of hope persisted, carried through small acts of defiance that subtly challenged the Spartan chokehold on their existence. Among the egregious manifestations of Spartan control was the manipulation of children. Helot offspring turned into pawns within the chessboard of dominance. Their vulnerability became leverage, a sinister tool ensuring parental compliance and silence. With the innocence of young lives as bargaining chips, dread seeped into the hearts of Helot parents, crushing rebellions before they could take root. This manipulation through progeny distorted familial bonds, replacing them with a sour brew of anxiety and helplessness. The Helot family, a core source of identity and unity, was rendered both foundation and prey within a cycle of control and sorrow. Those daring enough to voice dissent faced a chilling fate, abrupt disappearance. No warnings or trials preceded these silences, leaving families grappling with unanswerable questions and grief-laden voids. These disappearances were calculated to sow seeds of despair, deterring others from daring to challenge Spartan authority. The ever-present threat of vanishing cloaked the Helot society in an oppressive shroud, compelling them to choose silence and self-preservation. Yet amidst this stifling fear, resistance remained interwoven in their cultural fabric, driven by ancestral courage that spanned generations. Even when encased in fear and paranoia, whispers of resilience flickered among the Helots. Small rebellious gestures, a shared smile, a comforting touch, became gentle acts of defiance against oppression. Through these simple acts of camaraderie, the Helots quietly forged bonds of resistance, Survival itself was an act of rebellion, a dauntless refusal to yield humanity to their subjugators. As Helots toiled under invisible shackles, their whispers grew into a resilient chant, illuminating the path toward an enduring legacy of hope, survival, and freedom in the silenced corners of their world. The first light of dawn barely brushes the horizon when you are herded together with other Helots, a shivering mass bound for the battlefield, not as esteemed warriors, but as fodder for the fire of Sparta's ambition. You are stripped of choice, dignity, a distant memory, as you march to the rhythm of unseen drums, your life a commodity bought and sold in Sparta's endless quest for supremacy. You tread upon the same ground, step after step, each one heavy with the foreboding of an impending storm of violence. You march, unarmoured, the sharp clang of Spartan steel, a constant echo. A reminder of how thin the thread of life you walk truly is. Behind the relentless Spartan phalanx you march, overshadowed by their prowess yet under constant watch, your every move a potential threat to their ironclad order. For the Spartans, you are a necessity born of desperation, a living barricade against a world they seek to dominate. The eyes of your overseers weigh upon you with the expectation of betrayal should your courage falter or your pace slacken. Loyalty is no merit in itself. It must be forged at the edge of a spear. In such bleak hours, the promise of freedom is dangled like an enticing dream, a sliver of hope against the oppressive might of Spartan rule. Freedom, they claim, is the prize for valour in battle, a promise as illusory as the morning mist vanishing under the scorching sun. Yet the shivering Helot dares to believe, dares to dream that such a celestial reward might befall him. However, experience teaches harsh lessons, and you learn quickly that Spartan promises are crafted from the iron of necessity, not compassion. This pledge, whispered soft against the clamour of battle, often dissolves in the harsh light of victory, leaving a trail of crushed hopes. For Helots like you, the notion of emancipation is a castle built upon dreams, a tool wielded to bind your spirit to their cause, not to cut your chains. As the horizon darkens with approaching foes, you find yourself thrust into the fore, a living bastion sacrificed on the altar of Spartan ambition. Yours is a path marked by tragedy, where your presence ensures that Spartan blood is spilled cautiously, deliberately. You surge forward, silent under the roar of clashing arms and the cries of the wounded, the air a cacophony of despair. Yet when the tales are told of Spartan glory, your sacrifices are omitted, your courage unrecognised. Shackled in the shadows of history, your contribution lies buried beneath the laurels of those wearing the Spartan name. Even as the few Spartiates reign supreme, the reality underneath is less flattering, as Helots, far greater in number, silently carry the military on their shoulders. Sparta guards this truth jealously, for true recognition would shake the very core of the Spartan myth, the belief in their unconquerable strength. This facade is not only for the outside world, but for the Spartiates themselves, unwilling to acknowledge the silent strength that bears them up like mountains rising from the plain. Without Helots, their dominance stands on shaky ground, yet the narrative remains unchallenged. In the chaos of war, alliances form out of shared necessity. You may find common ground with the Perioeci, the faceless foot soldiers of the Spartan machine. Yet, caution tempers every handshake. Suspicion clouds every agreement. This relentless scrutiny turns battle into a stage where trust and betrayal dance hand in hand. Among comrades in arms, Helot loyalty is forever in question, tested under the unyielding gaze of Spartan enforcers. Here, camaraderie is both a necessity and an illusion, a tentative thread spun from shared suffering. As you labour tirelessly, your sweat becomes the oil of the Spartan war engine. Your exertion is the unseen heartbeat behind every Spartan victory. Yet gratitude remains absent. To recognise your toil would unravel the facade of Spartan infallibility they so carefully maintain. Your sweat mingles with blood beneath warriors' feet, an unseen testament to the life you endure. When battle ceases, leaving bodies and aspirations equally shattered, the demand for Helot labour resumes with unrelenting force. Your existence slips back into the shadows, mere ghosts within a Spartan world. Healing remains a distant ideal, as necessary but unattainable as true freedom. Every scar, every grain of dust clinging stubbornly to your skin, becomes a badge of endurance, each line an untold story of survival that Spartan scrolls will never inscribe. This is your life, your narratives whispered in the embrace of silent fields, your victories sung in the quiet marrow of shared resilience. The wheel of fate binds you here, an irony as stark as freedom's allure. Perhaps therein lies your strange liberation, a world where shared destinies forge unexpected alliances, where every Helot's heart speaks in rhythms, ancient yet undying. Yours is a legacy of silence that echoes through time, a tapestry whose rich threads fortify the myth of Spartan grandeur, an eternal tribute to the unsung. In the grand narrative of Sparta's enduring legacy, the Helots remain hidden in the shadows, their lives marked by relentless toil and silent suffering. The annals of history resonate with tales of Spartan valour, yet the Helots who laboured silently behind these stories are conspicuously absent. Their erasure isn't an accident, but a deliberate choice by a society built on their subjugation. To acknowledge them would be to confront the uncomfortable truth that Sparta's glory was inseparably tied to their oppression. In this way, Helots become the ghosts haunting the majesty of Spartan monuments, unseen yet fundamental. This erasure has deep roots in Sparta's social fabric, where the Helots live not only as subordinates but as invisible entities, their lives and deaths passing without trace or acknowledgement. Herein lies the profound irony. In the land that boasts legendary heroics, those who endured the most brutal trials were actively forgotten. As we delve into the world of the Helots, their silence echoes with the realization of how their anonymity served to highlight the prominence of their Spartan overlords. Each day for a Helot began with the first light, the air filled with the sense of fields in motion, yet mired in stagnation. Rising not for personal prosperity, but for unending servitude, they drove the agrarian engine of Sparta with no expectation of acknowledgement. Dusk would fall without bringing change, merging their lives into a relentless cycle of labour and anonymity. The earth they tilled bore Spartan support, yet their own existence melted into the land they tended, a testament of survival unmarked by monuments or history. The Helots' whispers, exchanged in secrecy to avoid Spartan ears, form an oral tapestry of resilience. Their stories, told under the moonlit fields or within secluded homesteads, linger on the edge of memory, unwritten and unsung. Unlike Spartan triumphs captured in epic verse, the Helots' tales dissipated like smoke in the wind. This oral tradition, their only mode of self-expression, speaks of the daily humiliations and flickers of hope that form their reality. Though their stories fade without the permanence of ink, their wisdom and endurance stealthily critique the ethos of a society fixated on martial glory. As age advanced, Helots realised they had no resting place, promising dignity. Death often greeted them without fanfare, whether on battlefields or deserted roads. Their bodies returned quietly to the earth they worked. Whereas Spartan obsequies celebrated honour and legacy, the Helots vanished unceremoniously, their departures silent indictments of a culture that overlooked their quiet courage. Their lack of memorial rituals speaks of a broader, sanctioned disregard, a cultural choice reflecting deeply entrenched values of hierarchy and exclusion. In the towering works of Greek thought and art, Helots find no place. Their omission from these revered texts cements the conditionality of historical narrative, a vivid silence among the celebrated verses that captured the heroics of Spartans alone. Literature exalted Greek heroes while purposefully neglecting the laborious contributions of the Helots. This exclusion perpetuates an established cultural paradigm, where only the glorious enter memory, leaving the anonymous contributions of Helots unnoticed, further embedding an incomplete picture of Spartan life. Walking among Spartan structures, the silent work of Helots begs acknowledgement. Monuments like agoras and temples, designed to embody glory, were constructed by hands that history chose to conceal. The very architecture meant to immortalise Spartan valour paradoxically relies on the uncredited toil of Helots. Their fingerprints erased from these stones create a compelling narrative about historical memory. Power, rather than toil, commanded remembrance. The neglected narrative of Helots forms a legacy constructed by absence, a silent void speaking volumes about the limits of Spartan recognition. Studying these omissions brings about reflections on what richer histories remain buried beneath Spartan tales. By recognising and confronting the silence, modern readers inch toward a broader understanding of history's complexities. Telling the untold stories of Helots reshapes our grasp of past dynamics, presenting a nuanced approach to how history should reconcile glory with grit. This exploration of Helots' exclusion reveals ironies within Spartan society. A culture famed for its memorials consciously forgot those who ensured its core. Their omitted memories become potent reminders of the intricate truths behind celebrated histories. Examining what was hidden unearths systems foundational yet overlooked, prompting vital ethical inquiries about the frameworks governing memory and significance. Though monuments do not rise for them, Helots' contributions remain deeply inscribed in the silences between historical verses and structures. Thus, this narrative of the Helots urges us to remember and reanimate their stories, allowing them finally to emerge from history's shadows. In piecing together their fragmented legacy, we shift focus toward the valour in survival and suffering. By honouring their endurance, we defy a history too narrowly defined by triumphs. We bring light to the resilience silently underpinning Sparta's achievements, carving a space for the Helots within the chronicles of humanity's enduring spirit. In the shadow of the mighty Spartan warriors, renowned for their discipline and military prowess, exists a grim truth, a truth etched in the blood and toil of the Helots. While stories of Spartan glory echo through time, it is the labour of these enslaved people that forms the unacknowledged backbone of Spartan strength. Bound to land they did not own, the Helots tended to the fields, vineyards and olive groves, their sweat nurturing a soil that sustained their oppressors. As Spartans honed their skills for battle, the Helots worked tirelessly to support the day-to-day existence of a society that constantly dehumanized them. The economy of Sparta thrived on the backs of the Helots. They tirelessly produced food and goods, enabling Spartans to dedicate their lives to mastering warfare and governance. This carefully orchestrated system ensured Spartan warriors never had to concern themselves with mundane agricultural tasks. Yet, the price of Sparta's economic vigour was exacted from Helot suffering. Grand rituals and ceremonies that underscored Spartan power and unity were made possible by Helot labour. Their contributions were crucial, but their rewards nothing more than continued survival under a whip. Spartan infrastructure owes much of its existence to the Helots, who built and maintained the roads, temples and fortifications synonymous with Spartan ingenuity. These structures, essential to Sparta's defence and civic life, were crafted under harsh conditions imposed by Spartan overseers. Despite their fingerprints being all over the stones that connected Spartan territory, Helot's contributions were systematically erased from the narrative, leaving their efforts uncredited and forgotten. Moreover, the pomp of Spartan ceremonies, demonstrations of their famed austerity and discipline, was underwritten by resources compiled through Helot labour. From sacrificial animals to lavish feasts, every aspect of these cultural showcases bore the invisible mark of Helot's contributions. Yet, they were permitted only demeaning roles in these events, performing them under duress and watched by those who relished in their subjugation. The oppression of Helots extended beyond physical toil, for alongside their labour thrived a systemic culture of fear. The Krypteia, Spartan secret police, exemplified the paranoia and brutality that kept Helots subdued. Their existence shrouded in terror, Helots were daily reminded of their expendability through state-imposed violence and arbitrary punishments. This cycle of repression reflected the tenuous balance upon which Sparta's power stood, reliant upon those it sought to control utterly. In times of war, the Spartan military might, celebrated across the Greek world, depended once again on Helots. Used as support troops, they carried supplies and set up camp, their lives dispensable in the chaos of battle. While Spartans claimed victory, Helots rarely received recognition, let alone the spoils or the scant promise of freedom. Instead, they bore the risk without reward, augmenting the prowess of the very warriors they served. Despite being regarded merely as labourers, Helots contributed much in the way of ingenuity, their insights into agriculture stemming from generations of experience. They quietly innovated, increasing yields to sustain Spartan demands. Yet their wisdom was dismissed as extensions of Spartan brilliance, depriving Helots of credit or voice. This systemic appropriation masked their real ingenuity, allowing Spartan narratives to claim superiority without acknowledging a dark partnership beneath. Spartan propaganda brilliantly ensured the myth of Helot satisfaction and subservience permeated Greek consciousness. Portrayed as inherently cowardly or content, these narratives justified their continued subjugation, cloaked in a facade of harmony. In truth, Helot resistance pulsed beneath the surface, manifesting in quiet acts of sabotage or attempts to escape. Despite the Spartan efforts to portray obedience, these rebelling whispers told of a deeper longing for freedom and dignity. Today, historians strive to bring Helots from the shadows, acknowledging them as crucial to not only Sparta's ascendance, but also its inevitable decline. By reshaping this narrative, we challenge the long-held perceptions of unassailable Spartan superiority, shedding light on the nuanced reality dictated by Helot endurance and sacrifice. This evolution signals a broader effort to include marginalised voices in history, recognising the hardships and resilience of people once consigned to footnotes in the Spartan tale. Thus, in re-evaluating Spartan legacy, we must not overlook the Helots, whose toil and innovation were foundational to Sparta's might. By acknowledging this symbiotic relationship, we gain insights into not only ancient societal dynamics, but also the enduring complexity of human history. Let us remember the Helots not merely as the subjugated, but as pivotal architects of Spartan prowess, with a narrative underscoring humanity's capacity for both cruelty and coexistence. If you enjoyed this retelling and the hidden stories it unveiled, consider liking and subscribing to explore more of history's forgotten chapters.